Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my latest video, which is which flight simulator or game gives the best feeling of flight. Now by the best feeling of flight, I'm not talking necessarily about the greatest realism in flight. I'm talking about the game which gives the best overall feeling of flying within a game. Now, of course, this is very subjective, and each person will have their own personal favourite game, which gives them the best feeling of flight. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to lead you through my own personal flight sim history and game history, and at the end of the video, I will reveal the game which gives me the greatest feeling of flight. The first game to give me any sort of feeling of flight was back in around 1985, and it was Solo Flight on a Commodore 64. Now many of you looking at this will probably think I've gone a little bit crazy. The game seems to move at 1 or 2 frames per second. There's no real 3D effect and the graphics look very bland. But this was about as good as flight sims got back in 1985. Negating the bad graphics, the game gave a great feeling of flight, and I can still play this today and get a great experience of flight playing it. Staying on the Commodore 64, we come now to an undisputable classic game, Mercenary. Now of course Mercenary is not particularly known or remembered for being a flight simulator, but the feeling of speed and even smoothness you got whilst flying around in the game was unpassable, and it was a lot better than most flight simulators of the day. Fast forward a couple of years, and I replaced my trusty old Commodore 64 with a 16-bit Commodore Amiga 500. One of the games I got included with the pack I bought with the Commodore Amiga was the phenomenal F-18 Interceptor. Simply nothing had been seen like this before. This absolutely stunned the world when it was first released. Now of course the graphics are looking a little bit dated and they don't quite measure up to modern day flight sim graphics, but still, even playing it today, the feeling of speed and feeling of flight you get whilst playing Interceptor is absolutely incredible. The next flight sim I was to play on the Commodore Amiga was the almighty Falcon. Now, even before I bought the game, I knew it was going to be a study sim. It came with a huge manual, which you had to really read to get the most out of the game.
Caution.
When playing the game itself, even though it felt
Caution.
very serious and very authentic, it was actually quite
Caution.
good fun to fly, and I didn't get into it quite as much that I hoped I would do, but I had fun playing it when I did. Moving on to the early 1990s, I was handed down a second-hand Super Nintendo system, and on that I bought myself a copy of Pilotwings. Being made and produced for the Super Nintendo system, Pilotwings is a very arcadey flight simulator, but the actual flight within Pilotwings feels very good and very, very enjoyable to play. Moving on to more modern times, I bought myself a PC over 15 years ago, and ever since I've been a PC gamer. The PC is widely considered by the majority as the platform of choice for flight simulation. And the PC is home for great flight simulators like X-Plane and FSX, and they're great simulators in their own way, but for me, that's it. They're just simply simulators, and the feeling of flight I get whilst playing them isn't really fantastic. But there are some PC simulators which give fantastic feeling of flight, such as A10C Warthog. Of course, A10C Warthog is a very modern game with very modern graphics, and it gives a really authentic feeling of flight and a very high level of realism. But which game gives me the best feeling of flight? Well, the winner is... There's absolutely no doubt in my mind, if I want to play a game which offers me a great feeling of flight, great thrills, and just great fun, then Interceptor wins all the time. So I'd like to give an enormous thank you for anybody who has, or for anybody who will, watch this video. Please leave a comment below on the game which gives you the best feeling of flight, and if you feel inclined to, like, dislike, and subscribe for more great videos.